Alright, testing. Okay, good. The audio is working. Sorry, I am a tad bit late, folks. I've been working on an article of mine and then also just getting meal prepping and showering and, basic stuff taken care of. So, give me a few seconds to get the comment section rigged up. Okay, come on. There we go. Sometimes technology greatly frustrates me because it's like, okay, I'm doing the thing you're telling me I need to do, so why are you not doing it? Okay, come on. There we go. That would be my phone. Alright. There we go. So, hi everyone. I hope you have all had a lovely Sunday. I certainly have. Got some work done on an article that should be featured either late tonight or sometime tomorrow. And I'm going... Okay, stop it. And we're getting started on next evolution number 3. Give me a second. Sorry. Getting set up here. Come on. There we go. Alright, so one very important announcement is that next evolution number 2 is now available on Global Comics. So if you want to figure out what happens after next evolution number 1, go ahead and go to Global Comics. I will leave the link down below for you to see, and you can continue on with that story. But anyways, let's... Wait, what the hell is that? Today's Pinocchio Day? We have a Pinocchio Day? When the hell did we have a Pinocchio Day? Okay, apparently we have a Pinocchio Day. Okay, whatever, never mind. There we go. Boop. Here, next evolution number 1. Alright, so tonight we're going to be reading some more Conan. I'll just go ahead and start from the beginning because I know that once I started from the beginning the last time, I immediately crashed out. So apologies for that. We're going to restart the beginning, and this is the Black Colossus for those who want to know. And we're starting with a quote here. The night of power, when fate stalked through the corridors of the world like a colossus just risen from an age-old throne of granite. E. Hoffman Price, the girl from Samarkand. Jeez. Yeah, I'm trying my hardest to pronounce some of these names. I'm so sorry, folks. Let's move you a little bit closer. So, let me know about the mic quality, folks. Only the age-old silence brooded over the mysterious ruins of Kuthkins, but fear was there. Fear quivered in the mind of Shivatas, the thief, driving his breath quick and sharp against his clenched teeth. Okay. He stood, one atom of life amidst the colossal monuments of desolation and decay. Not even a vulture hung like a black dot in the vast blue vault of the sky that the sun glazed with its heat. On every hand rose the grim relics of another forgotten age, huge broken pillars thrusting up their jagged pinnacles into the sky. Long wavery lines of crumpled walls, fallen cyclopean blocks of stone, shattered images whose horrific features the corroding winds and dust storms had half erased. From horizon to horizon, no sign of life, only the sheer breathtaking sweep of the naked desert, bisected by the wavering line of a long dry river course. In the midst of that vastness, the glimmering fangs of the ruins, the columns standing up like broken masts of sunken ships, all dominated by the towering ivory dome before which Shivatas stood trembling. Alright, interesting opening. Let's see how Conan comes into this. The base of the stone was a gigantic pedestal of marble rising from what had once been a terraced eminence on the bank of the ancient river. Broad steps led up to a great bronze door in the dome, which rested on its base like the half of some titanic egg. The dome itself was of pure ivory, which shone as if unknown hands kept it polished. Likewise shone the spired gold cap of the pinnacle, and the inscription which sprawled about the curve of the dome in golden hieroglyphics, yards long. No man on earth could read those characters, but Shivatas stuttered at the dim conjectures they raised, for he came of a very old race, where myths ran back to shapes undreamed of by contemporary tribes. Shivatas was wiry and lithe, and became a master thief of Zamora. His small, round head was shaven, his only garment a loincloth of scarlet silk. Like all his race, he was very dark, his narrow vulture-like face set off by his keen black eyes. His long, slender, and tapering fingers were quick and nervous as the wings of a moth. From a gold-scaled girdle hung a short, narrow, jewel-hilt sword in a sheath of ornamented leather. Shivatas held the weapon with apparently exaggerated care. He even seemed to flinch away from the contact of the sheath and his naked thigh. Nor was his care without reason. This was Shivatas, a thief among thieves, whose name was spoken in awe in the dives of the mall and the dim, shadowy recesses beneath the temple of Bel, and who lived in songs and myths of a thousand years. Yet fear ate at the heart of Shivatas as he stood before the ivory dome of Cuthchemis. I'm guessing it's Cuthchemis. That's how it's pronounced. Please correct me in the comments. Any fool could see there was something unnatural about the structure. Sorry about that, folks. The winds and suns of 3,000 years had lashed it, yet its gold and ivory rose bright and glistening as the days. It was reared by nameless hands on the bank of the nameless river. This unnaturalness was in keeping with the general aura of these devil-haunted ruins. This desert was the mysterious expanse lying southeast of the lands of Shem. A few days riding on camelback to the southwest, as Shabbatas knew, would bring the traveler within the sight of the great river Styx, at the point where it turned at right angles in its former course, and flowing westward to empty at the last into the distant sea. At the point of its bend began the land of Stygia. Stygia. Why do these names have to be so complicated? The dark-bosomed mistress of the south. Sorry. Whose domains, watered by the great river, rose sheer out of the surrounding desert. Eastward, Shabbatas knew, the desert shaded into steppes stretching to the Hercynian kingdom of Turan, rising in barbaric splendor on the shores of the great inland sea. A week's ride northward, the desert ran into a tangle of barren hills, beyond which lay the fertile uplands of Goth, the southernmost realm of the Hyborian race. Westward, the desert merged into the meadowlands of Shem, which stretched away to the ocean. All this Shabbatas knew, without being particularly conscious of the knowledge as a man knows the streets of his town. He was a far traveler, and had looted the treasures of many kingdoms. But now he hesitated and stuttered before the highest adventure and mightiest treasure of all. Okay, when the hell is Conan gonna be in here? Okay. Because I am slightly tempted to skip over this story, because it's like I am promising Conan, and Conan is not here. Strange implicated things she found her not here. Devil bite you, hussy! Okay, so alright, so Conan is going to be Conan is going to be showing up later on in this story. This is a prologue. It is very boring prologue, but it is prologue at the very least. I am interested in seeing how Shabbatas ties into the narrative, because right now it's like, this is a dude! He's about to die! And he's doing a thing! It's like, cool! Why should we care? Alright, all this Shabbatas knew without being particularly conscious of the knowledge that a man knows the streets of his town. He was a far traveler, and had looted the treasures of many kingdoms, but now he hesitated and shuddered before the highest adventure and the mightiest treasure of all. In that ivory dome lay the bones of Thurgakotan, the dark sorcerer who had resigned in Cuthgemas 3,000 years ago, when the kingdoms of Stygia stretched far northernward of the great river of the meadow of Shem and into the uplands. Then the great drift of the Hyborians swept southward from the cradle land of their race near the northern port. It was a titanic drift extending over centuries. Over centuries and ages. I cannot be this tired this early. But in the reign of Thugrakotan, the last magician of Cuthgemas, gray-eyed, tween-haired barbarians in wolfskin and scale mail had ridden from north into the rich uplands to carve out the kingdom of Koth with their iron swords. They stormed over Cuthgemas like a tidal wave, washing the marble towers in blood. The northern Stygian kingdom had gone down in fire and ruin. But while they were scattering the streets of his city and cutting down his archers like ripe corn, Thugrakotan had swallowed a strange, terrible poison, and his masked priest had locked him into a tomb he himself had prepared. His devotees died about the tomb in a crimson holocaust, but the barbarians could not burst the door, nor even mar the structure by maul or fire. So they rode away, leaving the great city in ruins, and in his ivory-domed spectacular great Thugrakotan slept unmolested, while the lizards of desolation gnawed at the crumbling pillars, and the very river that watered his land in old times sank into the sands and ran dry. Cool. Many a thief thought to gain the treasure which fables said lay heaped about the moldering bones inside the dome, and many a thief died at the door of the tomb, and many another were harried by monstrous dreams to die at last with the froth of madness on his lips. So Shivata shuddered as he faced the tombs, nor his shudder altogether occasioned by the legend of the serpent said to guard the sorcerer's bones. Over all, bits of Thugrakotan hung horror and death like a spell. From where the thief stood, he could see the ruins of the great hall wherein chained captives had knelt by the hundreds during festivals to have their heads hacked off by Pirate King in honor of Set, the serpent god of Stygia. Somewhere nearby had been the pit, dark and awful, wherein screaming victims were fed to a nameless, amorphic monstrosity which came up by a deeper, more hellish cavern. Legend made Thugrakotan more than human. His worship yet lingered into a mongrel degraded cult, whose votaries stamped his likeness on coins to pay the way of their dead over the great river of darkness which the Styx was but the material shadow. Shvatas had seen its likeness on coins stolen under the tongues of the dead, and its okay, I'm half tempted to just skip to the next chapter because what the fuck does any of this happen? Okay, yada yada yada. All right. I am skipping to the next chapter because it's like, what the hell does this first chapter have anything to do with what is going to be happening? Okay, like, Shvatas is about to rob this place. He is scared. He has reason to be scared. Yeah, da 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 da. Alright, but before his eyes were focused on the dais of crystal which rose in the midst of the shimmering array, directly under the red jewel, and on which should be lying the mouldering bones, turning to dust with the crawling of the centuries, and as Shavatas looked, the blood draining from his dark features, his marrow turned to ice, and his skin and his back crawled and wrinkling in horror, with his lips working soundlessly. But suddenly he found his voice in one awful scream that ran hideously under the arching dome. Then again the silence of the ages lay among the ruins of the mysterious Kuthkemis. So it's like background. I'm not trying to downplay the background work that he's trying to lay out here, but I am very bored by the background because it's like, okay, all of this, and I am still wondering, what does this have to do with Conan? And Conan does apparently come in page 5 pages later. Alright, so we're going to be starting now on part 2 because I'm getting bored of part 1. Okay. Part 2. Rumors drifted up through the Meadowlands into the cities of Hyborians. The word ran along the caravans, the long camel trains plodding through the sands, herded by lean, hawk-eyed men with white kafkans. It was passed on by the hook-nosed herdsmen of the grasslands, from the dwellers in tents and the dwellers in the tents to the dwellers in the squat stone cities where kings with curdled blue-black beards worshipped round-bellied gods with curious rites. I'm guessing he's referencing Buddha there. Oh well. The word passed up through the fringe of hills where gaunt tribesmen took toll of caravans. The rumors came into the feral uplands where stately cities rose above blue lakes and rivers. The rumors marched along the broad white roads thronged with ox wains, with alluring herds, with rich merchants, knights in steel, archers, and priests. They are rumors from the desert that lies east of Stignia, far south of the Kothian hills. A new prophet had risen among the nomads. Men spoke of tribal war, of gathering vultures in the southeast, and a terrible leader who held his swiftly increasing hordes to victory. The Stygians, ever a menace on the northern nations, were apparently not connected with this movement, for they were massing armies on their eastern borders, and their priests were making magic to fight that of the desert sorcerer, whom men called Natok. I am assuming that is pronounced Natok, the veiled one, for his features were always masked. But the tide swept northwestward, and the blue-bearded kings died before the altars of their pot-bellied gods, and their squat walled cities were drenched in blood. Men said that the uplands of the Hyborians were the gods of Natok, and his chanting were votaries. Raids from the desert were not uncommon, but this latest movement seemed to promise more than a raid. Brewer said Nadok had welded 30 nomadic tribes and 15 cities in his following, and a rebellious Stygian prince had joined him. This latter lent to the affair an aspect of real war. Ooh. Characteristically, most of the Hyborian nations were prone to ignore the growing menace, but Koraja, carved out of Shemite lands by the swords of Kothic adventurers, heed was given. Lying southwest of Koth, it would bear the brunt of the invasion, and its young king was captive to the treacherous king of Ophir, who hesitated. Okay. When is Conan going to come up? Offered no gold by the treacherous street. The white lands of the young princess Yamela, the king's sister, natural sang of her beauty. Throughout the western world, the pride of a kingly Come on. I don't mean to sound like super disrespectful, but it's like, come on. Why are we? Come on. Having a little drink. Minstrel sang for beauty throughout the Western world, and the pride of a kingly dynasty was hers. But on that night, her pride was dropped from her like a cloak, and her chamber, whose ceiling was a lapis lazuli dome. Robert E. Howard seemed to have a thing for lapis lazuli, because that was mentioned in the Tower of the Elephant. Alright. My legs. Anyway. His marble floor was littered with rare furs, and whose walls were lavish with golden friezwork. 10 girls, daughters of nobles, their slender limbs weighted with gem-crusted armlets and anklets, slumbered on velvet couches about the royal bed and its golden dais and silken canopy. But Princess Yasmela lolled not on the silken bed. She lay naked with her supple belly upon the bare marble like the most abased supplement. Her dark hair streamed over her white shoulders, her slender fingers intertwined. She lay and writhed in pure horror that froze the blood of her little lithe limbs, dilated her beautiful eyes, that pricked the roots of her dark hair and made goose flesh rise along her supple spine. Never heard a spine being described as supple before, but okay. Above her, the darkest corner of the marble chamber, lurked a vast, shapeless shadow. It was no living thing of form or flesh and blood. It was a clot of darkness, a blur in the sight, a monstrous, night-born incubus that might have been deemed a figment of a sleep-drugged brain, but for the points of blazing yellow fire that glimmered like 2 eyes from the blackness. Moreover, a voice issued from it, a low, subtle, inhuman sibilance that was more like a soft, abominable hiss of a serpent than anything else, and that apparently could not emanate from anything with human lips. Its sound, as well as its import, filled Yumela with a shuddering horror so incontrollable that she writhed and twisted her slender body as if bent beneath a lash, as though rid her mind of its insinuating vileness of physical contortion. Okay, if this is gonna be how the story continues, I might just end it at an hour, because this is very boring for a Robert E. Howard story. It's like yada yada yada, all this like political content's going on, and now we're in a harem, and this naked chick is seeing something spooky. It's like, cool, the naked chick seeing something spooky. Okay. I mean, naked chicks see something spooky every other day, so. Alright. Twisted her slender body beneath the lash, as though to rid her mind of its insinuating violence by physical contortion. "You are marked for mine, princess," came the gloating whisper. "Before I awakened from the long sleep I had marked you and yearned for you, but I was held by the ancient spell by which I escaped mine enemies. I am the soul of Natok, the Veiled One. Look upon me well, princess. Soon you shall behold me in my bodily guise, and shall love me." The ghostly hiss dwindled off in lustful titterings, and Ismella moaned and beat the marble tiles with her small fists in her ecstasy of terror. "I sleep in the palace chamber of Akbanta," the simplest continue. "There my body lies in its frame of bones and flesh, but it is of an empty shell from which the spirit has flown for a brief space. Could you gaze from that palace casement, you would realize the futility of resistance. The desert is a rose garden beneath the moon, where blossom the fires of 100,000 warriors, and as an avalanche sweeps onward, gathering bulk the momentum, I will sweep into the lands of mine ancient enemies. Their kings shall furnish me skulls for goblets. Their women and children shall be slaves of my slaves' slaves. I have grown strong in the years of dreaming." And all of this is to convince her to fuck him? I don't believe it's working, fella, but alright. "But thou shalt be my queen, O princess. I will teach thee the ancient forgotten ways of pleasure. We, for the stream of cosmic obscenity which poured from the shadowy colossus," Esmeralda cringed and writhed as if from the whip that flayed her dainty bare flesh. "It's too cringe! His furry fantasies are just too cringe for me!" Imagine being so cringe that even when you have a pretty chick naked and she's like in your place and you try to describe to her, "Yeah, we're gonna totally have a great relationship," she cringes so hard that she's like, "Oh God, please kill me." We're working with negative Riz right here. This dude has negative Riz. "Remember," whispered the horror, "the days will not be many before I come to claim mine own." Isabella, pressing her face against the tiles and stopping her pink ears with her dainty fingers, yet seemed to hear a strange sweeping noise like the beat of a bat wings. Then, looking fearfully up, she saw only the moon that shone through the window with a beam that rested like a silver sword across the spot where the phantom had lurked. Trembling in every limb, she rose and staggered to a satin couch where she threw herself down, weeping hysterically. The girls slept on, but one who rose yawned, stretched her slender figure, and blinked about. Instantly she was on her knees beside the couch, her arms about Esmeralda's supple waist. Was it? Her dark eyes were wide in fright. Wide with fright. Esmeralda caught her in a convulsive grasp. Oh, Vestia, it came. I saw it, heard it speak. It spoke its name. Natok. It's Natok. It's not a nightmare. It towered over me while the girls slept. Like drugged ones. What shall I do? Vatessa twisted a golden bracelet about her rounded arm in meditation. "O princess," she said, "it is evident that no mortal power can deal with it, and the charm is useless that the priests of Ishtar gave you. Therefore seek you the forgotten oracle of Mitra." Alright, come on into this story. In spite of her recent fright, Esmeralda shuddered. The gods of yesterday had become the devils of tomorrow. The Gothians had long since abandoned the worship of Mitra, forgetting the attributes of the universal Hyborian god. Esmeralda had a vague idea that, being very ancient, it followed that the deity was very terrible. Ishtar was much to be feared, and all the gods of Kothian culture and religion had suffered from a subtle admixture of Shemite and Stygian strains. The simple ways of the Hyborian had become modified to a large extent by the sensual, luxurious, despotic habits of the East. "Will Mitra aid me?" Esmeralda caught Vestia's wrist in her eagerness. "We have worshipped Ishtar so long." "To be sure he will." Vestia was the daughter of an Orphean priest who had brought his customs with him when he fled from political enemies in Kondura. "Seek the shrine. I will go with you." "I will." Esmeralda rose, but objected when Vestia prepared to dress her. "It is not fitting that I come before the shrine clad in silk. I will go naked. I will go naked on my needs and benefits a supplement. Rest, Mitra, team, I lack humility." I don't mean to be an expert here, but I feel like in most places of worship, they prefer you to wear clothing. Even if it's cotton, polyester, silk, or whatever, most places of worship want you to be clothed. So, and if anything, arriving naked, it shows disrespect to whichever religion you wish to appeal to when you're entering a temple. I mean, this is some very strange logic. Thus, upgraded, Esmeralda allowed the girl to garb her in the light sleeveless silk shirt. "You're putting on clothes, bitch! What the hell?" Over which was slipped a silken You're not naked anymore! You're putting on shit! Bound at the waist by a wide velvet girdle. Satin slippers were put upon her slender feet. And if you... Okay, do these people not understand what naked mean? Like, naked means you have nothing on. Unless we're talking about Victorian naked, unless... And then there's like... Okay, Victorian naked is a very different interpretation of naked. Victorian naked is like you're walking around in long johns and you're naked then. But it's like, that's not technically naked, but whatever. You're Victorians, so it's like I understand you get just some weird hang-ups on a lot of shit. Alright. Conan's gonna come in here eventually! I swear! I swear this is a Conan story and he's gonna be here eventually. Nonsense. 12 folks stand upright before him, now crawling on their bellies like worms or spelt. Okay, so at least the servant was like trying to okay, so I skipped that paragraph where Thestra was trying to convince her. No. Our god would very much like you to wear clothes, please. Which I'm pretty sure literally every god, except for Zeus, would appreciate a woman to wear clothes before she got into a temple. Because, you know, Zeus be Zeus. And just a hole is a goal with Zeus. So... Where were we? Then the princess followed the girl who... Then the princess followed the girl who drew aside a heavy gilt-worked tapestry and through the golden bolt of the door it concealed. This led the narrow, winding corridor, and down this the two girls went swiftly. Through another door and into a broad hallway. There stood a guardsman in crested gilt helmet, silver cuirass, and golden chased grievances, with a golden-sheathed battle-axe in his hands. A motion from Yasmela checked his exclamation, and saluting, he took his stand again beside the doorway, motionless as a brazen image. The girls traversed the hallway, which seemed immense and eerie in the light of the crescents along the lofty walls, and went down a stairway where Yasmela shivered at the bolts of the shadows which hung in the angles of the walls. 3 levels down, they halted at last in the narrow corridor, which arched ceiling was crushed with jewels, whose floor was set with blocks of crystal, and whose walls were decorated with golden freswork. Down this shining way they stole, holding each other's hands in a wide portal of gilt. Okay, again, when is Conan getting here? Why does this have anything to do with anything? He is apparently here. Somewhere. Okay, if we get to 8:30 and Conan does not show up, then we're going to put on a, funny video, and we'll just pick up the story next week where we just hear boring shit about 2 naked girls wandering around a castle. Look, I get it. You men like naked girls. I get it. But at the same time, it is very boring. When is the big muscly man going to come in and just wreck some shit? men are not just all about sex appeal. I know you men are not just all about sex appeal. So why are we just focusing on the 2 naked chicks wandering around a castle? Can we please get to Conan now? I'm starting to feel less bad now for me checking out last week when I attempted to read the story for the first time. I was just so bored by the beginning of the story that I just went off and did something else. Alright. Tessa thrusted open the door, revealing a shrine long forgotten except by a faithful few and a royal visitors of Kodra's court. Mainly for those who benefit the fane was maintained. Ismella had never entered it before, though she was born in the palace. Plain and adorned in comparison of the lavish display of Ishtar's shrines, there was about it a simplicity of dignity and beauty characteristic of the Mitrian religion. Okay. The ceiling was lofty, but it was not domed. Jesus Christ. Can you please get to the action now? But it was not domed, and was of plain white marble, as were the walls and the floor. The former with a narrow gold frieze running about them. Behind an altar of clear green jade, unsustained with sacrifice, stood the pedestal whereon Mr. Howard, I know you could summarize this a lot simpler. Why are you torturing us with this boring shit? So the best of and sat the material manifestation of the deity. Ismella looked at Ella as the sweep of the magnificent shoulders, clear-cut features, wide straight eyes, and the patriarchal beard, the thick curls of the hair confined by the simple band about the temples, as though she did not know it, was art in its highest form. The free and scrimped artistic expression of the highest aesthetic ray. Okay, come on! She fell on her knees and thus prostrate, regardless of Vesta's abdomination, and Vesta, to be on the safe side, followed her example, for after all, she was only a girl. And it was very awesome in Mitra's shrine. I wonder how different awesome was compared. The word awesome has a very different meaning back then than it did nowadays. Alright, but you could not refrain from whispering in Yasmala's ear, "This is but the emblem of a god. None pretends to know what Mitra looks like, but this but represents him in idealized human form, and near perfection as in the human mind can conceive. He does not inhabit this cold stone, as your priests tell you Ishtar does. He is everywhere, above us, about us, and he dreams bedsides in high Can you please skip forward? But here his being focuses, therefore call beyond him." "What shall I say?" whispered Yasmala in stammering terror. Alright, screw it. I'll finish this story by myself. It's like, okay, when is Conan coming into the damn story? We're like almost 10 pages in and he's not in the fucking story! Okay, he comes in on the 10th page. Mr. Howard, I love you, but I am going to continue this story on my own because it is getting very boring, and this is very boring reading for a stream. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to make this entertaining, but it's really hard to make it entertaining where all you hear about is this one thief dude. He goes to a shrine, and he dies, and then we cut to, like, naked chick who's told by a mysterious being, hey, you're gonna be my fuck buddy, and then she freaks out and just collapses on an altar. It's like, what the fuck does any of this have to do with Conan? I'm sorry, I tried. This has to be the first of the Robert E. Howard stories where it's like, why the fuck should I even care about what the hell is going on right now? Alright. I'm gonna light this incense, and then I am going to find us a video for us to watch. Alright. So, okay, let's us go to YouTube. And we're going to immediately go to... Oh, yay! I gained a subscriber! Hello, new subscriber! Okay, so... let's scroll down here. Oh god, someone redid the infamous Captain America profile and did it with the Hawk. Or the Falcon, sorry. No, Falcon, yeah. Sorry. Alright, so let's see. What looks interesting? We're not going to talk about the no-kill rule again. Alright, let's talk a bit. I saw this video on Twitter, so let's go ahead and pop into this.
Would it surprise you to know that men don't read anymore?
Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. I forgot okay, last night my boyfriend and I were making Cincinnati chili, and we got bored because we're basically just babysitting a pot for an hour, so we just put on a movie on my laptop. The recipe was on the internet, so that's why I put it on the laptop, and so we turned up the volume to override the bubbling noises. So, sorry about that. Didn't mean it. Alright, here we go.
More? It sure surprised me. It actually surprised literally everybody. Men, women, and of course, BookTube and BookTalk had a field day with it, with some marvelous videos talking about, actually, yes, men do read. You, traditional publishers, just don't frequently make books for them at all. Or at least not books that are clearly marked or coded for men. If you go to Amazon or any bookstore, there is a section called Women's Fiction. There are also a lot of other sections which are not specifically targeted at women, but the book covers and the titles and the blurbs make it very clear that it's not women's fiction, but it is.
That's another thing with book marketing where technically no, it's not marketed towards women, but every single indicator is yeah, this is for women. You know those HR cartoon videos when you join a new workplace and they have things like weird HR cartoon videos to demonstrate good behavior in the workplace? And some book publishers take that style and unironically use them as book covers. That stuff is made to appeal towards women. It's not made to appeal towards men, because men generally hate HR shit, which is fair. HR shit is very annoying.
Despite this universal shunning that marketers have done towards male readers, men still read, and they read prolifically. It's just that they're kind of ghettoized. If you're a man and you want to read, there's a few options open to you. Nonfiction, of course. Hey bro, are you reading your nonfiction to get on that grind? If not, WYD. I hate the internet. If you want to read fiction, military sci-fi is a reliable place to go. Definitely very male energy. I'm here for it. High fantasy, sword and sorcery. Do you like dragons? Do you like knights? Do you like Game of Thrones?
Do you like big muscly men slaughtering monsters and then getting a harem of women afterwards? There you go!
We got you covered, bro. Pulp novels are very niche now, but they still exist, and they are still primarily for men. And of course, there's always homicide, murder mystery, solve.
It's actually kind of funny because when I researched pulp novels, pulp originally was not necessarily a genre. It was just a medium because they were literally made out of like pulp paper. They were cheap paperbacks to be printed. So it was not necessarily a genre in and of itself with tropes. It's just, okay, this was just like cheap fiction to be sold to the masses. And pulp could be a western, it could be a noir, it could be a romance, it could be a crime thriller, it could be a horror. Like pulp could be a whole bunch of things. And it's only considered pulp because it was printed on like cheap paper for cheap people to buy. It was entertainment for the pores. That's what pulp fiction was. Entertainment for the pores. But it's as time went on, pulp started to like shape into what people wanted, and it started to shape itself into a genre. Pulp is actually kind of a fascinating subject because it started out as such a broad thing, and it eventually just narrowed down into a specific trope kind of by accident and just organically. So nowadays when you say pulp, you think things like The Shadow or Doc Savage or something like that. And it's like, that's not all of what pulp was back in the day, but when we think of pulp now, that is what it is. Which is, I'm starting to think that maybe I should do just a whole stream going about pulp, because it is fascinating how it progressed.
Puzzle, catch a murderer kind of books. Very popular with both sexes. Fine, fair enough. But what if you don't like any of that stuff? What if you like contemporary fiction? You're a man, you want to read a book about the here and now, about an everyman's struggle. No.
Fight Club, basically. Fight Club. When's the next era of Fight Club?
It's not about the apocalypse. No, it's not about a dragon. And whatever it's about, you absolutely don't want to sit through 27 and a half pages of world building. You don't like that. And yeah, we can make fun of you for your attention span, or hear me out, we can acknowledge that men have varying tastes in what kind of literature they like, just like women do.
Do men want that? Like, I acknowledge that there are some men who do like the everyday drama, who do like the everyday tellings of it, or something like The Great Gatsby, or something like Franz Kafka. Like Kafka, his whole shtick is he's like contemporary dystopian, or at least for his time, he was contemporary dystopian. Or I don't even know what we would consider Kafka, but it's like, it does exist for men, but men only really acknowledge it as like a bougie
thing. But at the end of the day, when it's like something they want to read on a Saturday night, when they're done with their job, they already had their dinner, they're just sitting in their bed, not doing anything, what they gravitate to read towards is like fantasy, military fantasy, sci-fi, stuff like that. They want escapism. They don't want necessarily a contemporary slice of life thing, unless it's like an anime slice of life where it's cute girls doing cute things, or it's slice of life, but there's this wacky twist to it. Like, one of them is a Wendigo or something. I don't know. But, yeah, men don't gravitate towards that thing, from what I have experienced. Like, men want flat out escapism. They want the extreme escapism. They don't want a reminder of just how boring real life is. And even women don't want a reminder necessarily of how boring life is. Like, the most slice of life thing I have on my shelf right now is Wand Dance. It's a slice of life of a dance troupe, like hip-hop dance troupe. And even then, the main draw is the dance scenes that are drawn, where it's almost abstract art, and it's beautiful in that. And yeah, so it's like, we don't want uber boring slice of life stories. We want something fun. Can we have some fun, please?
Because some women hate exposition too. Hello. If you are a man and you want contemporary literature, particularly if it's about love, romance, or dating, I got bad news for you, fellas. You're shit out of luck. Or at least you were until recently. Normally when you come to my channel, the first thing that I tell you about writing a book is that you want to fit very nicely into a niche, an existing niche. You want to market to an existing market. You want to say, hello, see all these other books that are just like mine that you enjoyed? You should also read mine. I'm very into that. So what happens when the market that you're targeting has kind of been left out in the cold? The people that you want to write for, nothing really exists for them. You're not exactly the first of your kind. That would be pretentious, but you might be the only one that's published in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know. Today we're going to be looking at The Dog Walker by...
Okay, something I've noticed when it comes to romance for men. When men want to consume something that's like purely romance, not a fantasy story that has a romance subplot, or a video game where it's like, oh, you have a romantic interest that you can potentially bang some point later in the game. When men want to consume a romance, it's like in one of those dating game simulators, or it's like their one guilty pleasure chick flick. Like, I am fully convinced every single man has their one guilty pleasure chick flick. And I'm sorry for the one guy who just joined in the stream looking for Conan, but the story that we were reading of Conan, just Conan was not appearing at all in that story. So I am so sorry, but we're now focusing on this video. But hey, if you're made it to this part of the video and you happen to be a dude, let me know what your one guilty pleasure chick flick movie is, because I am fully convinced every single man has that one guilty pleasure chick flick.
R.A. Stone, which is unique in that it is men's contemporary fiction that talks about sex, dating, and the male's struggle with his identity, who he thought he wanted to be versus who he actually is versus who he becomes.
I just thought Hunter S. Thompson. Wouldn't Hunter S. Thompson be considered contemporary? He's considered a gonzo journalist, but most guys love the fuck out of Hunter S. Thompson just because he's just a frank, crazy dude. So why didn't you mention that? But anyways, all right, we're not going to nitpick on that. Let's continue with the video. I need to stop being a pause, Andy.
By letting go of all those old scripts. This is classic contemporary fiction, which, at least in my lifetime, hasn't really been written for men. And now that it has, we're going to take a look on exactly what the author chose to do to reach out to his target demographic, why he succeeds, and what decisions might have been a little questionable going on there. And last but not least, and I think this will be fun, what I, a woman, thought of this absolutely unambiguously male book. Let's get into it. Hello, Shameless Writers. I'm Kristen McTiernan, the nonsense-free editor, here for your sarcastic dose of writing and book marketing wisdom. Today, we're going to be talking about The Dog Walker by R.A. Stone and exactly why this, what should be very banal book release, is kind of earth-shattering on the landscape of men's fiction. I don't need to tell you because you sat through English class all through your high school career just like I did. So you know that historically speaking, literary fiction was a man's domain, and it was about many things. It was not confined to the ghetto of genre fiction. Hemingway, London, Conrad, these titans of literature, men who wrote men's stories for men. And yet, somewhere along the line, booksellers figured out that women do the majority of buying for their entire family. And so now we've gotten to a place where
I don't know if I like that particular setup because, yes, there were a lot of men writers, but that's not to say that women weren't an important role too, or women weren't appreciated too. I think of Jane Austen with Pride and Prejudice, or the, what were their names? The Bronx sisters, where they were very much appreciated. And who was the author of the Yellow Wallpaper? Who? Yeah, the Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilliam. That is in a American Gothic classic where it has a female protagonist and it is explicitly about female mental health. So I think it's disingenuous to say that it was completely male dominated, where female authors were there and they were acknowledged and they were still, and if they had merit, they were still important, or at least considered important. So it wasn't just Hemingway and the rest. There were some women authors there.
Women make up, this is true, 80% of fiction readers. It's also not a coincidence that women make up 80% of publishing employees. I
also want to know, where did they get that statistic where it was mostly women reading? Because men did read back then. And she mentioned pulp fiction before, so why isn't she... I am confused because I know for a fact that men were still reading, they were still consuming, but they were maybe they only featured the statistics of like the official book market and not like pulp paperbacks or magazines. Like people give a lot of slack, like people just hand wave away Playboy magazine, but Playboy magazine did actually have articles. When people said they bought Playboy for the articles, they were not joking. Playboy actually had articles. Playboy even had short stories and poem. Shel Silverstein, the guy who wrote The Giving Tree, he got his start in Playboy. So I want to know where they got these numbers from, because I do not believe that it was only women who are buying like 80% of the stuff when it comes to literary, and therefore they said, oh, we need to market more to women. And it's like, men are reading, they're just not reading the crap that you corpos are putting out, maybe. How about you try figuring out what the hell men are writing and reading?
The agents you talk to, the interns who read your manuscript and throw it in the slush pile, the designers who make your stupid flowery cover with a crown on it. Chicks. All of them chicks. Well, 80% of them. This is why the fiction landscape and books for general audiences are books for girls. All of them. Genre fiction is great. A lot of my editing clients are in the male sci-fi genre in particular. And this is very male-coded. The covers are very male-coded, and the content is, and of course the characters. Most of these guys are indies, mind you. They're not traditionally published, which is why they're able to publish male-coded fiction in the first place. But again, it's genre fiction, and not everybody's into that. Being a man does not actually obligate you to like space stuff. It doesn't obligate you to like Game of Thrones, dragon stuff. For men, if you're not super into genre fiction, you basically have Chuck Palahniuk. Is that how you pronounce this? I need to Google how to pronounce his name. It's pronounced Palahniuk. Is he Polish? I don't know. Okay,
That sounds like a Polish-ass name, if I've ever heard one.
it's easy. That's fine. Why is there an H in it? I disapprove. I disapprove of the spelling.
Oh, honey. Just be glad you don't have a bastardized name that apparently came from somewhere in the English Isles. Maybe we were Scottish, maybe we were Irish, maybe we could have been Welsh for all we know. My last name is only 5 letters long, and I have heard every single mispronunciation of it, so I'm not judging her. I just find it funny where it's like, why is there an H in there? And it's like, oh, honey. There are so many different languages where it's like, why the hell is half of these letters even in this word? Okay, a really funny thing, because I was reading the Solomon Kane tales, and let me pull it up. It was in, not the Rattle of Bones. It was in the Red Shadows, and this is Robert E. Howard, and the main antagonist is French, and at one point he was addressing Solomon Kane as like a monsieur, and I'm looking at it, it's like, what the fuck is that supposed to be? Oh, you're trying to say monsieur. Oh, honey, that's not how French works. Because Robert E. Howard was trying to write French words as he heard it, and that's not how French works. Because with French, you got 12 letters in a word, and you pronounce 6 of them for some fucking reason.
Of your name, sir. He's more in the transgressional fiction genre, so if you really liked the movie Seven, you probably like Palahniuk. And it's fine. It's fine if you like that, but it's not contemporary fiction. The fact that it takes place in the now times is not enough to make it contemporary fiction, and it's certainly not going to give you a slice of life of what life is like for a man from a men's perspective. Very few contemporary novels deal with the modern male experience at all, or if they do, it's from the female perspective. Do these female authors or the POV female characters get that right? I'll leave that for you to tell me.
I can say for myself as a female writer, I don't know dick about shit about men. Even though I am currently dating a man, I have lots of men in my life. I work with men on a regular basis. I still don't understand men. Like, I have a general idea of men, but the longer I live, the more I realize there's a lot of nuances to men that you just don't get unless you're a man yourself. And it's the same vice versa. Like, a man can study women. He could have a lot of women in his life. He can know a lot about women, but he will still not understand the nuances of women. And it's simply because unless you are a man or a woman, you will not understand the perspective of a man or a woman. It's simple as. I don't care about that progressive bullshit where it's like, oh, it's just the same thing. You just whip out the penis for the vagina. No, it is a very different experience. And there's a lot to it.
Probably not. Because contemporary fiction focuses on a slice of life, there's a lot of the male experience that we're missing out on. We're missing out on male sexuality, which of course we know society as a whole hates and spits on. We're missing out on male friendships, which again, if you believe the press, y'all just don't have friends. You have no friendships and you don't want them.
You are not, if you are a man, if you have other men who you consider friends, if they are not calling you a gay retard on a semi-regular basis, they are not your true friends. That's how male friendships work.
All you want is sex, you disgusting porn-addicted creeps. And you really have no inner life at all. You know, men are simple. They just want food and sex. How did we get to a point where stand-up comedians' bits were, like, considered facts? I hate it here. R.A. Stone just decided, screw that, I am not satisfied with what is available, and I, a man, have decided to write a book, a contemporary book, for men. Let's see how he did. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the cover before we even get into it. And this is my one, I'm not going to call it a beef, but this is a risk. Cartoon book covers are actually very in vogue right now. You've probably seen a lot of them, but very female coded. And
Cartoon! Okay. Am I the only one that's slightly concerned why more and more female covers that are, or covers that are meant to appeal to women, I should say, are just cartoony? I'm a little perturbed by that. Look, I love anime, and I do love some cartoons, but cartoons are not real life. And especially when it comes to female fiction, it's like, this is the shit you should fantasize about. And well, yeah, I have my cartoon crushes myself. Like Vampire Hunter D, he is just like, it should be illegal for you to be that handsome, my sir. It is illegal for you to be this handsome. But I understand he's a cartoon character, and there is no way in hell I will ever find a man like him to fuck. And I've accepted that real life men do not look like cartoons. However, female publishing is continuing to, on the more cartoony and more infantilized version of what humans are supposed to look like. Like, this is something I would expect from a Disney show. This looks like a Disney show, and from what I understand, this book has some hardcore sex scenes in it. And there's something just about it. I don't know.
And even books that are not necessarily for women, the covers are just, we can just say that they're very...
Okay, that's a C.S. Lewis book, and that's most likely not his fault. That was most likely the publisher. So do not put this on C.S. Lewis. This was most likely just the publisher being like, oh, we're just going to make it like this, and it's going to be cute. Even though C.S. Lewis would probably prefer his books to be published in like leatherback tomes or something that looked a little bit more sophisticated.
Very gently animated. I don't know what you call this cartoon style, but it's very in your face and it's very male coded. The second you see this cover and he has two different versions of the cover. So the one that I showed you is the one for the ebook and the paperback, and then the hardback has its own cover, and that's the one that I got. That's the one that's going on my shelf because I like it better. But this is really unique. This is a strange kind of retro, very, very male animation style. It's a risk because it doesn't match anything that's currently on the bookshelf.
It kind of looks like 70s animation. Like Fritz the Cat. Yeah, it kind of looks like something that Batchki would make. Fritz the Cat. Something like that. It looks somewhat similar to that, where it's like a goth, like dark, like not goth, but adult American goth is what that looked like. Where it's not friendly and it's not realistic, it's still cartoony, but it also has a rawness to it, which men do love. Men absolutely adore that stuff.
But it's good because it's not anything that's on the bookshelf. Does that make sense? So you see this and you're like, what is that? I have the sense that this is for dudes. This is not for me, a woman. It absolutely isn't. But I'm compelled. Like if I had seen this at a Barnes and Noble and I was just like walking past it, I'd be like, what the I have to know. I'm so sorry. I would reach, grab, and flip and see what the hell this book is, because it's captivating. It's so unusual. It does not match anything that is for sale. Normally when my authors ask me what their cover should be doing, I send them to Amazon. I tell them, look and see what the best sellers are, look at the trends on what the covers are, and tell your artist to match that. Ari Stone is actually, I think he's a graphic designer by trade. He was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. So the artist that he worked with, he specifically told him, I want something that's not on the market right now. I want something eye-catching that's different and unique. And he succeeded in that. That is kind of a risk. I think it works. And I think it works both in the...
Well, that's the point of a cover. It's supposed to be eye-catching. Like, fuck. Even with Twilight, like, I know we're talking about male-centered fiction, but, okay, where is that damn cover? Even with the first book, like, for women, this is an eye-catching cover. Okay, it's not specifically for Twilight, but this is a very eye-catching cover. And when it comes to men like dynamicism when it comes to their book covers. Like something from heavy metal. Like, let's look at this. Alright, so they're magazine covers. Yeah, like something dynamic. Men prefer something that's more dynamic. Women are more of like mood pieces or something that it expresses a vibe. And men are like, fuck that. Give me the shit where it has a gigantic whatever dog on it, or like a chick riding a cybernetic hawk. Like women prefer vibes, men prefer dynamicism. And when men do appreciate sentimentality, there's gotta be a naked butt cheek somewhere in there. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. It's just, you men just really like naked butt cheeks for some reason.
The online landscape where you're clicking a smaller icon and in a physical bookstore, it's definitely very eye-catching, and it's male-coded. Now, what is the dog walker about? So basically, it's Rex. He's a guy in the Canadian Navy, And we follow him along with his dating adventures. We start when he's just like, we have some flashbacks of when he was a young man. He was just finishing high school. And we see where he grew up. We see the kind of family environment that he came from. And we see why he has the rules for himself and how he constructs what a good man is and how he's going to live up to that. He's got all these rules and he's going to be a good man. He's not going to be like his piece of shit stepdad. That's so millennial. That's so millennial. Don't we all have a piece of shit stepdad? I feel left out, but like, I feel like
I have a very good stepdad, thank you very much. Does that make me, like, not a millennial anymore because I had a good stepdad and he's actually a very good man? Oh, shit, am I gonna lose my millennial card? Fuck.
like everybody has a piece of shit stepdad. And we just follow him. Now, it's not a linear storytelling. It is an episodic storytelling. And each chapter is named for one of the girls. So in one chapter, we've got Kelly. So she's a single mom. Then we've got Kate, and she's just kind of a regular hookup. It's fine. Then we've got Alyssa, and boy, is Alyssa's kind of messy. In addition to his romantic entanglements, we also get a really good idea of his friendships, the kind of relationships that he has with his fellow sailors, and whether they are positive or negative, whether they're close or not close, whether they're competitive or just complimentary. And then slowly but surely, we kind of watch him grow into the person that he should have been, but didn't know that he should have been. It also has a direct, unfiltered first-person male point of view. So we are hearing directly from Rex. He is talking to himself in the mirror. He's talking to his fellow sailors. And when he has thoughts, it's usually, it's about what's happening right now or what happened in the immediate past. It's not this navel gazing. It doesn't go on long tangents. It's very male in the way that Rex speaks to us, the reader, and to himself and to those around him. The way that the male characters speak to each other. It made me so nostalgic for the military. And there's really no civilian equivalent for that type of unfiltered male energy. Haven't found it anywhere since. Except Red Pill Twitter. One thing that I also liked was that the limited physical description. So you don't get the type of female-oriented physical descriptions about wavy hair and exactly what shade of brown his skin is and, oh, the shape of his eyes. Chicks love that shit. I generally don't. I skip description because I've already decided what they look like. Thank you very much. I don't need you to tell me.
I don't know. I'm personally of the opinion of I want to give enough of a description so that you know exactly what this person looks like, and it's not just like generic fembot 1 and generic fembot 2 and generic Mailbot 1 and generic Mailbot 2. I do like giving descriptions just because it's like, okay, this person has a very distinct look to them, and they are different from other people. So, yeah.
Male readers are often like that as well. Female readers less so. They want you to tell them exactly what type of book boyfriend they should be imagining. So this is just it's a difference in writing style, and he really hits it out of the park with appealing to the male reader or appealing to the expedient reader if you want to be, gender neutral about it, whatever. What really sold it for me, and I don't know, maybe this is the woman's perspective, I don't know, but the way that male relationships were treated, it's not something I've seen. I'm not going to say ever. It's generally not seen in books that have a contemporary setting. We talk about the Bechdel test. Oh, are there two female characters on screen? And are they talking?
The Bechdel test is bullshit. I will live by that. I will say that until the day I die. The Bechdel test is bullshit. And even the bitch who created the Bechdel test would agree with me, because the Bechdel test was never meant to be something to be taken seriously.
Talking about something other than a man, okay, that's fine, and maybe that's a Hollywood thing, but in books,
And by the way, if we are talking about things that pass the Bechdel test, a lot of lesbian porn would pass the Bechdel test. Just saying. Angel Blade would pass the Bechdel test. Bible Black would pass the Bechdel test. And I'm very sure that many feminists would not be happy about those things passing the Bechdel test.
usually don't get a good snapshot in contemporary settings of male friendship. You get a lot of different iterations of that in the dog walker. So you have Rex and Jason. So Jason is not like his best friend, but they have a...
He's not calling him a retard. That's the code for that. Men don't call each other retards until they're best friends.
Supportive relationship. It's the right thing to do for me to give him guidance when I need to. It's not sentimental. It would not be the way that I would talk to Jason. Okay. And there's that kind of underlying competition going on there, and that runs through a lot of the relationships. Now, I will say, there's another character in here named Mike, who is our main guy, Rex's roommate. And in the first chapter, it was very clear. It's like, okay, we hadn't yet introduced Mike, but there was narration discussing Mike, and it was very clear. It's like, who is this guy, and why is Rex so invested in what he's doing? The competition was very clear right there from the get-go, before we even met Mike. And speaking of Mike, I would like to chastise the men of Twitter.com who reliably informed me that frenemies are an entirely female construct.
Oh no, men absolutely have their frenemies. I do get frustrated with men who try to put the whole, this whole friendship drama, that's only you women deal with drama like this. And it's like, bitch, I have seen the beef you get into on Twitter. I know for a fact that some of y'all are just as petty as some of the high school mean girls. Okay? Especially some of you on Indie Comics Twitter have absolutely lost the right to say that, that you're acting feminine. This is a feminine thing. Like, no, you have no right to even ascribe that behavior to women anymore, because at this point it's like, no, you're just a bitch. And for me, bitch is a gender neutral term. It's like, no, you are just a bitch. So, and yes, men absolutely have their frenemies. And for some, it's weird that men would even have frenemies. But again, when you get into certain circles and you see the behavior of some of these guys, it's like, oh yeah, frenemies is totally a thing for men.
Sitting here lying on Asmongold's internet. Mike is a frenemy. Okay, y'all can dress it up however you want. That is a frenemy. I know it when I see one, and I am delighted.
And also, frenemies also do not get retard status. Because frenemies have not earned the right to be called a retard.
To find out that you're full of shit. Now, it's a uniquely male way of having a frenemy, but I'm sorry, I will not be convinced that Mike is anything but. I love the way that they bond over the shared military experiences. They bond over the same insufferable toxic girl that they nail in a casual way. Like, she's not either of their girlfriends. I think they call them, like, plates, or we would call them fuck buddies. If I needed to say it, there are a lot of parts of this book that are really, really funny in an extremely realistic way, because a lot of times they are funny because, especially for those of us who've been in the military, we're like, yep, I remember that. That was good times. Good times. Another part of the general dynamics, and this is something that as a woman I was personally annoyed by, it's sharing notes and sharing intel, if you want to call it, about women in general and specific women. Because when you're in the military, y'all circulate through the same women. It's terrible to say, but it's true. You got the barracks hose. These are a fact of life, whatever. She just goes from door to door to door. Everybody's nailed her, and then some poor sap ends up marrying her. Happens every time. What are you going to do? Then there's your fellow soldiers, sailors, or Marines, they get around too. And one thing that really hits girls, like, we just don't like it when y'all sit there and have your little powwows, be like, oh yeah, here's the experiences that I had with her. Oh no, bro, let me tell you how it was with me. Yes, this is bonding. This is bonding with the men. But it's also, I don't want to say behavior modification, but they're learning from each other. It's like, oh, well, I struck out with this same girl that you got lucky with. I'm better looking than you. Why did you get lucky when I didn't? Or why are you having this long-term successful marriage when, I'm getting divorced over here? Oh, you're swinger. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with me. Wow. So
This does remind me from this one scene of Game of Thrones. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this. Ah, screw you.
For years I've heard that Littlefinger is a magician. Whenever the crown needs money, he rubs his hands together and poof, mountains of gold.
Let me guess. He's not a magician.
No.
He's stealing it?
Worse, he's borrowing it.
What's wrong with that?
We can't afford to pay it back. That's what's wrong with it. The crown owes millions to my father.
Seeing as it's his grandson's ass on the throne, I imagine he'll forgive that debt.
Forgive a debt. My father. For a man of the world, you're strangely naive.
I've never borrowed money before. I'm not clear on the rules.
Well... The basic principle is, I lend you money, and after an agreed-upon period of time, you return it with interest.
And what if I don't?
Well,
Which is exactly why I refuse to owe money to anyone.
you have to.
But what if I don't?
This is why I don't lend you money. Anyway, it's not my father I'm worried about. It's the Iron Bank of Bravos. We owe them tens of millions. If we fail to repay these loans, the bank will fund our enemies. One way or another, they always get their gold back. Ah, the return of the conquering hero. Does he have a little jaunt in his step?
The lad's practically skipping.
You were gone a long time. I trust you got your money's worth, or should I say my money's worth? Oh, it was a gift, Podrick. This is more than I give you in a year.
He's a squire. You don't pay him.
Oh, then it's much more than I give you in a year.
I wouldn't take it, my lord.
Maybe they're trying to curry some favor with the new master of coin.
Have you ever known a whore to turn down gold? They were happy enough to take it when I gave it to them.
What did you tell them?
I didn't tell them anything.
What did you do to them?
Lots of things.
And they seem to like these things?
Yes, my lord.
Of course they seem to like it. They're paid to seem to like it.
Only they weren't paid.
What are you saying? These ladies enjoyed him so much they gave him the time for free.
Is that what you're telling us? Sit down, Podrick. We're going to need details.
Details! It's a very simple scene, but it's also... It seems very masculine. Like, from what I understand, guys typically don't go into detail when it comes to the women they bag. It's women who go into the details of the men they bag. And the only time that a man requests to know the details of his friend's adventures is when he maybe is not like particularly good looking, or he's particularly not a dude where you know, he's not gonna get the time of day usually, but he bags a baddie. And it's like, okay, what the fuck did you do? Like, what did you do to get her? So I think that's like the only time that a man would ever want details of what his bro did. And that. It is very funny in its own way.
It's this lifting the veil, but they only feel comfortable doing that because it's another man. They only feel comfortable doing that because it's at the right time doing it. I see you need genuine help. And I also see that you're open to learning. Like, that's a big thing. Like, a dude isn't going to help another dude if he thinks it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. It's like, why am I going to waste my time? Whereas a woman, we'll just sit there and talk and talk and talk and talk. We'll talk your ear off and give you advice all day long, even though we know you're not going to listen to us, because in a way that's kind of affirming for us. The act of talking is rewarding to us, even though we know you're not going to take our advice. And by we, I mean women in general. I don't mean me, because I'm too old and crotchety to put up with that crap at this point. Go Google it, Sandra. Get a life.
Maybe it's because I'm autistic, but... Okay, fuck you, Facebook. But maybe it's because I'm autistic, but... I give advice because I genuinely care about someone. And it's like, whatever they do with my advice, Godspeed. But... I'm also not the one to give advice because I know that I am also a retard. Look, somehow I got myself a boyfriend, and I still to this day have no idea how we've lasted this long, okay? So I am the last person to ask for any sort of advice in that department.
Coach, I don't care. The book really gets it right in that it's emotionally expressive in a very male way. These are deep and meaningful friendships. They're just not what women would expect, and therefore not what you see normally represented in fiction. The chapter with Charlie was especially painful because we watch him just sink really deeply into these idealized romantic tropes. I have known a lot of Charlies, or at least I've seen them from a distance, and so like the second I saw her, I'm like screaming at the book, run, bitch, run! And no, well, he did run. He ran towards her, and of course all of his friends warned him, and you know, it's just painful. And, you know, you just remember all of the young men who have their hearts just shattered.
Isn't it also like a trope that military guys are fucking stupid when it comes to romance? I don't mean to be super disrespectful to our military folks, but from what I've heard, some of you guys are fucking stupid when it comes to romance. Like, you see the first, like, barrack bunny who gives you attention, and you're like, oh, she's the one. And it's like, oh my god, you're so fucking stupid. But again, can't judge because I'm a retard myself in this department.
Shattered. Yes, they do have hearts, and yes, they do break, and it's sad. And neglecting that part of the male experience does not help anyone. So I am delighted that that got put into there. There are a lot of funny parts. There are a lot of dramatic parts. There's fights. And there's also yelling at strippers for putting titty prints on on a glass coffee table, which I'm not going to tell you the story, but anyway. The fantastic thing about contemporary literature is that it appeals to everyone. And so for those women in my audience, I will tell you that The Dog Walker is a good choice for us. Not just because we can spy upon the male perspective and learn to better beguile him, but also because it is satisfying to read about these heinous bitches. More than anything, what The Dog Walker serves as is proof. This is proof of concept. Actually, yes, you can write contemporary male fiction. Yes, it will sell. It's in its first weekend. It came out on the 14th. It's doing...
I think Hunter S. Thompson and Warren Ellis have proven that, yeah, that kind of shit sells. Even though Warren Ellis has had his numerous... fuck, why am I blanking out on this word? I don't know. He fucked up a few times. Let's say that. He fucked up a few times. I guess
any male author who is writing in contemporary, if it's a dude who's a writer, you can already just tell that, yeah, he fucked up a few times.
Doing gangbusters. Now, I will say something about marketing. Because there's no men's contemporary fiction, guess what category my dude had to put it in? Satire. He had to put it in satire, which it's not a wrong category. It's satirical. It's funny. It fits. But wouldn't it be so much nicer for the reader if they could say contemporary subcategory men's? Maybe if there's more of it, my darling male authors who are wondering what they should write, maybe one day there would be. I'm just saying. Hint, hintity, hint, hint. If you want to read The Dog Walker for yourself, I've included a link below. It is available in paperback, ebook, and hardback, so you can choose which cover or which version that you want. My link is for Amazon, but it's also available on Kobo.
Alright, so we're about done with that video, and I think we're about done with this stream. I'm sorry I, again, couldn't get through this Conan story. I think I'm just going to finish this one on my own, because it's a little weird how Robert E. Howard is just, like, spending the first 10 pages prologuing, when usually in his stories, it's, like, the first 2.5 pages, then something interesting happens. And it's like, it's 10 pages and shit's not happening. Okay. Alright. Yeah, this is a little abnormal of Robert E. Howard's style. So I'll just read that story on my own and we'll continue on to a different story next week. But with that being said, we'll just end the stream now because I feel like now's a good time to stop the stream. I'm sorry if it's not what you people were expecting, but thank you for watching.